What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast today on Monday, November 22nd. Hope you all had a phenomenal weekend here in Pittsburgh. The Pitt Panthers are ACC Coastal Champs, so that was fun. At the time of recording this, we don't really know what's going on with this team right here yet, but guess what? It's still going to be really fun to talk to you guys today on Monday, all about a bunch of different things. I mean, the Pirates, of course, made their 40-man roster decisions, seeing 4 players get protected and Michael Perez get optioned. Me and Gary Morgan, of course, who joins me every Monday, we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about the players we're most scared to lose that are the Pirates could lose in terms of not being protected as well from this 40-man roster spot stuff. And is Ben Cherington done? What does he still have up his sleeve this offseason? I am, of course, your host, Ethan Smith of the Locked On Pirates podcast. I'm here to answer all those questions with the help of Gary Morgan today. Thank you so much for making me your first listen of the day every single day on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. With that said, guys, let's hear that music and get this thing rolling.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And again, as I always say, the music plays. That means, guess what? Gary's going to be here on Mondays to my right and probably to your left, or however you guys see it. I don't know. Guess what? There's just 2 screens right now, one with Gary's face and one with mine. Gary, how are you doing today on this phenomenal Monday where, as you can already see at the bottom of the screen, the people know what we're talking about. It's been the talk of the town all weekend. But how are you first before we get into all of that?
I'm doing pretty good. It's Turkey Week.
It is Turkey Week, which means we all get to go in food comas on Thursday amidst the just terrible slate of football games that we're going to have. I don't know if anybody's talked about that in length yet, but all of those games look absolutely awful to me.
No Jared Goff either for Detroit.
Yeah. No Jared Goff and no Amari Cooper for Dallas. So, Dallas is without a big person. I mean, next thing you know, they're going to say Dak Prescott is out, and then all of a sudden it's going to be Tim Boyle versus Cooper Rush on Thanksgiving. I don't think I could think of anything better than that. But as always, me and Gary like to start with some fun stuff like that. But we are still a Pirates podcast. You know, the Pirates haven't played a game in almost 2 months now, but there's still been a ton of stuff on the news cycle. Finally, though, something big happened with the 40-man roster decisions. The Pirates didn't really have a choice here, even though based on how Twitter was with the deadline being at 6 and the news not coming out until around 6:38, most people thought Ben Cherington, as Gary said, forgot to put in his homework. But it eventually did come out that the Pirates selected infielder Leo Verpagero, outfielders Kanan Smith-Njigba, Travis Swaggerty, and Jack Zielinski to the 40-man roster, and optioned me and Gary's favorite player of all time, Michael Perez, to waivers. So, Gary, what were your thoughts immediately on this move whenever you saw it, seconds after it registered in your head?
Oh, there's so many layers to it. I wasn't completely shocked by getting rid of Michael Perez, although I thought they'd probably hold on until they had a viable replacement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care, though. I'm glad that signifies right now that they're going to try to upgrade that position at least. And, boy, it shouldn't be hard to get better than 143.
But, Gary, that's our favorite player, man. That's our favorite guy, best player on the team. You know, he had some home runs in there, so he's obviously the number 2 backup catcher, right?
Well, for those among you who do think he's a viable and good player, rest easy, because there's a good shot the Pirates will sign him back to a minor league deal. So
very good.
You might not be done seeing him yet. A little bit surprised by Jack Zielinski. I personally think Cal Mitchell's ahead of him. Pirates clearly don't agree, and that's fine. They certainly don't have to agree with me on everything. This is about what I thought, though. I thought, no more than 6 players would be protected. I'm going to go ahead and throw Diego Castillo into this, even though it happened a little earlier. Yeah, pretty decent mix of players. The only ones you can really be scared of losing are, I guess Mason Martin and Tanaj Thomas. I wouldn't worry too much about anything else. Hunter Stratton, I'd worry about, just because I do think he could stick somewhere. but that's about it.
Yeah, and I mean, for me personally, with the Jack Zielinski decision, the other three, I think you kind of understood. Like, there's a viable reason for the other three to all be there. Like Piguero, of course, as you mentioned last week, his bat is there already. It can play at the major league level already. You have to protect that. Caden Smith and Jigba probably going to get some time in Pittsburgh in 2022 at some point. I would say, like, probably around the trade deadline, maybe late into the season next year. Travis Swaggerty, if he plays up to it, could potentially be on the 26-man roster at the beginning of the season. There's real chances here for all of that to happen. What I think they're saying with the Jack Zielinski thing, as you mentioned already, is Ben Cherington and company see that he is farther along than Cal Mitchell is, which, again, that's kind of where the conversation with a lot of people has gotten a little interesting, because nobody's saying Zielinski's a bad player. It's just when you look at him and Cal Mitchell side by side, it kind of looks like Cal is a little farther ahead. And if he does get taken, sure, then it can hurt. But I honestly, hot take wise, immediately, I don't think any of these guys get taken except maybe one, and that's Tanaj Thomas, just because I've seen the Luis Oviedo Tanaj Thomas comparison over the last couple of days as well, that they have virtually the same kind of stats that like Oviedo had before he was picked by Pittsburgh in the first round of the Rule 5 draft last year. He's the only one, and we'll get into that in the next segment too, about why we could be like worried about these guys getting taken, but he's the only one that I really am afraid of. And again, no real surprises here from the 40-man decisions. I think one of the surprises from a lot of people that I saw on Twitter was that there were not more guys protected, but I also think that means Cherington has other stuff under his sleeve right now that he could be planning on, because there's still a lot of guys on this 40-man roster that could easily be DFA'd, correct? I would
assume. I think there's a lot of people that kind of lose sight of the fact that you still have to field a team in the majors.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of prospects. There are a lot of guys that were due to be protected. We don't have a whole lot of them that are very close to making an impact in Major League Baseball.
No.
That's a problem. You know, some of the guys we still have protected even. Luis Oviedo, I don't hold out much hope for him coming back this year. You know, I think he's going to take at least a full year in the minors, if not more, if he pans out. So, yeah, I mean, I guess you have to keep him protected, because otherwise you did everything last year for nothing. But right now, you look at this makeup of their roster, 8 outfielders.
That's not going to stay like that.
No,
that is not
9 middle infielders. 9 middle infielders. And I'd love to sit here and be one of these guys that goes, oh, Pshaw, don't worry about it. They're actually utility guys. No, there's not an outfielder among them. They're middle infielders, third base or first base at worst. So that's too many. They're not going to ever be able to get through a season like that. 20 pitchers, okay, that's probably pretty close to what you're looking at, but they're going to bring in more pitchers.
Yeah.
And one catcher obviously cannot be sustained.
Mm-mm.
So, I mean, they're not done making moves here is the point. So just don't worry about it. And if somebody you think deserved to be cut isn't cut yet, chances are they're going to get cut.
They're going to be at some point, yeah.
Yeah, I've got at least 6 that I can identify right now that probably don't have a snowball's chance of hell of making this team.
No, and I mean, and that's the thing too, is like a lot of people are wondering why the Pirates aren't really making a ton of moves right now. If you haven't noticed, it's not just Pittsburgh. There's not a lot of teams doing a lot right now, and that's just because of the looming CBA that we have now, and it's the 22nd of November at the time that you guys are hearing this. Most people are predicting that CBA stuff is going to happen a week after Thanksgiving. That's when most people are saying the league is literally going to stop functioning. So, I mean, like, if you're a team right now, do you really want to go sign one of these marquee free agents, not knowing what things are going to look like, even in a 2-month period? Like, I get people getting upset about the Pirates not really doing anything right now, but it's not just the Pirates. It's over half the league that isn't doing anything at the current moment just because of this stuff.
Absolutely. And I think when I think about the league as a whole, I think the teams that you're going to see make moves right now they're either going to be securing their own talent, which is pretty safe, or they're going to be teams that no matter what way the cookie crumbles here on the CBA, they're going to be all right. Having enough money tends to kind of make things like that a little bit easier. Let's just say, let's take it down to like the level of a normal person, right? You need a new refrigerator. So you go shopping at Lowe's. You have a lot of disposable income. Well, you may not care as much that this thing's going to last 15 years as somebody that is spending every red cent they have to get something they absolutely have to get. They're going to make sure this thing is rated to last 10, 15 years and be the best refrigerator they've ever had. And it's just a different state of mind when you don't have to worry about that sort of thing. And the Dodgers don't have to worry about that sort of thing. The Yankees don't have to worry about that sort of thing. So, of course, you're going to see them active out there. I think they'll still make a few moves before all this is done to kind of get out in front of things so that they don't have quite as much homework to do afterwards.
Yeah, and that's where I think a lot of teams are as well. And I mean, also, like the Angels just signed Noah Syndergaard, who has not really been pitching that much at all over the last about year and a half, to a pretty substantial deal. But no matter what really happens in the CBA, I kind of doubt that deal, regardless of the amount of money, is really going to hurt them in the long run. One, because it's a 1-year deal. Like, I mean, it's not going to kill anybody. And that's where most people are like, oh, well, why don't the Pirates do that? I'm like, well, the Pirates don't have $20-something million to just throw at somebody right now. They just don't.
Yeah. See, the Pirates do have the money. That's the thing is, but that's where we make a mistake a lot of the time as people that comment on the Pirates. We tend to love to like just throw that out there, like, oh, they can't, or they won't.
They won't.
They could do it. They won't. And when you really look at this roster, though, you have to look at where they're at. $20 million pitcher would not help this team.
Nope.
If you got 5 more wins out of it, that would be considered in this league $20 million well spent. 5 more wins would get the Pirates what? 96 losses, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to spend $20 million right now on something like that. It's stupid. Nope. The Angels, they're probably pitching away. So it's worth a shot for them to take a stab at somebody like Noah Syndergaard. If he happens to hit, man, you got him and Shohei Ohtani, and you got the makings of a team that could probably compete with a rebuilding again A's and a probably arrived too early Marlins and haven't figured out how to win yet team. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure. I see all that. Yeah, of course. I mean, there's nothing. Everything you just said makes total sense. And just like everything I'm about to say about DirecTV Stream, Gary, will also make total sense in getting your TV together today. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together today with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. Now, in the first segment, we did kind of get into it a little bit about the guys that we could be scared to lose. As you see, I have Tanaj Thomas, Cal Mitchell, and Mason Martin probably being among those notable names left unprotected. There are some other guys as well, as you mentioned, Hunter Stratton. But of the names that are unprotected, who do you think has the most likelihood to probably be taken in the Rule 5 draft, if it does happen?
If anybody, it would be Tanaj, but it would take a very special team. Not unlike the Pirates last year, which, special and 101 losses doesn't sound like it fits together, but I guess I'm talking about a special circumstance, which means you really don't care. Mm-hmm. You're not going to win. This is a way to get some talent into your system as painlessly as you possibly can. Tanaj can throw it up there. I mean, he can hit triple digits. Problem is, he's Wild Thing right now. He can't hit where he wants to go, and that's a problem one way or another. 100 miles an hour will get caught up to eventually if you're not putting it where it's supposed to go. So I don't think anybody's going to take that risk. Cal Mitchell, if anything, he's almost too vanilla. And when you're vanilla in AAA, boy, that smells an awful lot like somebody that's not going to just come out and do something special in the majors. So I think he's probably safe as well. Mason Martin, the power tool's there, man. And with the DH, that scares me a little bit. I actually had him on my board late as somebody that I would protect, mostly because I scared myself with the DH thought. So I am a little concerned about that. I do think that you could tuck him on your bench all year and get away with it. I don't know to what end, though, because if he's not playing, he's not progressing. So to me, he probably stays where he is. I don't think anybody will take a swing at him, and if they do, I think he might get returned.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree 100%. And of those guys that I did like, of the names mentioned down here that I didn't mention, are there any other guys that could be on the radar of other teams as well that Pirates fans might not really think about too much? I know one name before anything was Yeri de los Santos. Not really sure. I've heard his name. And then I know there's some other names as well that I've heard, but I would like for you to outline a little bit better than I would.
Yeah, Yeri de los Santos is somebody that I would probably consider. Mostly, I think he has a good shot to make the majors this year. I really do. He's been in the system for a while. He really showed a pretty big jump last year. I like what I see from him. Hunter Stratton's somebody that concerns me quite a bit. Good pitcher, always been a bullpen arm, always will be a bullpen arm. Those guys rock it. Those guys move. He's been very consistent. I could easily see somebody taking him, and I don't think he's a guy you'd have to hide because he's not a guy you're planning on turning into a pitcher later or hoping turns into a closer. He's just a good relief arm. And I do think that any number of teams could take a swing at him. And now as far as like worried about losing him, hey, you can't protect everybody. But he's a guy that I do think a team like the Pirates should almost have wanted to like make sure he was protected because he's a guy they could look to call up at some point this year. Realistically. Omar Cruz is the only other guy I can think of. And I don't know that he'll get the kind of attention that he should because he's kind of a light throwing lefty. Usually for something like this, you'd almost want a guy that can then hit the high 90s at least, right? Because those are the sexy guys. You think you're buying the tool, not the player. And I just don't think he's got any of those tools that traditionally would interest anybody in the Rule 5 market.
Yeah, okay. So, like, basically, they're not – if they lose anybody here, it's not going to be, like, world-breaking, correct? Like, the only – like, I don't think it would be, like, system breaking if they lose anybody. I think Mason Martin would probably be the biggest loss in terms of the system and like as a whole, just because what other big first baseman do you really have in the system right now? None that
they don't really have anybody. In fact, their next big first baseman option, I would say, is probably playing third base right now for Bradenton. So Mahika. That's probably the next one that I can see really factoring in there. I know a lot of people love to say like, oh, don't worry about first base. You'll just stick somebody there at some point. But I think the Pirates have tried that an awful lot. You know, we had Josh Bell. He wasn't a real first baseman. Stuck him there. He ended up not being able to really play the position. Looks like the Pirates are probably going to bring Yoshi back. So I'm not worried about it at the major league level this year because I think they're going to have two solid first basemen, at least as far as with the bats go. But yeah, next year, if Mason Martin gets taken, then all of a sudden there's a whole new thought process maybe on somebody like Colin Moran. You start wondering if you should be thinking about extending him for a year or so as opposed to trading him when you planned on it. If not, you need to definitely think about going out and getting somebody. So,
Yeah, and that's like I would say Mason Martin would probably be the biggest loss in terms of overall system stuff. Tanaj Thomas, of course, Cal Mitchell, those guys would like not be fun to lose, but you at least still have options behind them. Like, I mean, there's plenty of pitchers behind Tanaj Thomas right now. Outfielding wise, there's a good number of outfielders behind Cal Mitchell also. So that wouldn't be the biggest losses in the world. It would suck. But Mason Martin, yeah, like you said, losing him, you could be having a real different conversation. And I know Andy Rodriguez sometimes is listed as a catcher slash first baseman, but if you have to move him over to first base, then you're limiting your catcher system again. So
Yeah,
it's like,
and Endy could do anything at this point too. He could still wind up being a center fielder.
yeah,
The guy literally can play just about anything. So I don't even know if they'll ever really pigeonhole him as one position. The thing with Tanaj, though, the sad thing about Tanaj is he's got all the talent in the world. He is getting passed by in the system. He really is. So when we worry about losing him, I worry more about him making it ever. So I mean, he took a big step back last year that not a lot of people really want to mention because he's a good kid. And he has been exciting. And he hasn't lost his metrics. He can still throw that fastball. Problem is, he just did not fool too many people, and it's just something that's starting to catch up with him. And, you know, we're getting to the point where they got to start moving him up, or he's going to be a perennial minor leaguer.
yeah, which is unfortunate for any good kid, of course. We already know that. We've seen it happen before with guys with that kind of talent as well. And I mean, it happens all the time. It's just baseball. It's just how baseball works. It's how baseball operates. But now, if you want to operate on a better track, and by the way, I'm going to start being a little more careful with this ad read. I love Built Bar, but I've actually been getting heat from people about this ad read. I'm just reading the ad, guys. I promise. I do not like. I think these things. Like I do think these things. Built Bars are great, but you know sometimes I understand that pie at Thanksgiving might be too good. All right, I get it. But I love Thanksgiving, all the good food and treats and plenty of them. But maybe you want a yummy dessert that isn't so full of calories and sugar. It's the perfect time for Built Bars. Built Bar should be and is the new holiday dessert. Feast on something delicious and feel good about it. One slice of pie has upwards of 300 calories, and that's on the low end. Most Built Bars are only 130 calories and only 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. Low calorie, low carb, low fat, and high protein, covered in 100% real chocolate. Built is a great option for when you're hungry. If Thanksgiving isn't coming soon enough, go for a Built Bar or two. New surprises are coming all month. Limited time flavors are arriving at builtbar.com regularly, so check the site often. There's nothing like a Built Bar Black Friday. That'll actually be happening this Friday. So mark your calendar. Black Friday will be a huge event with all sorts of surprises. Make sure you go to builtbar.com, use the promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off of your order when you invest in the best protein bars on the market. Breaking news from the Locked On Pirates podcast. It has nothing to do with baseball. Dan Mullen is out of Florida, to no one's surprise, because they may not even be bowl eligible. Go Dogs and go Nittany, or not go Nittany Lions. Go Panthers. Sorry, I can't get my cat straight in Pennsylvania. But does Ben Cherington have more up his sleeve? Apparently, I am now unable to talk. So does Ben Cherington have more up his sleeve? I don't know what just happened there for the last like 30 seconds. I just was not able to pronunciate my words at all.
I don't know, but you've done all right with the Built Bar stuff because you got my wife addicted to them now. So
Really?
yeah,
I mean,
she loves them.
what flavor is she eating over there, Gary?
Well, dude, it's fall. She's a white girl. Pumpkin.
Oh, there we
Come
go.
on now.
Okay. Yeah, probably good with her pumpkin spice lattes that she probably drinks too, right?
No doubt. No
Okay.
doubt.
Okay, cool. I didn't want to sound like a word I can't say on this podcast for making assumptions. But does Ben Cherington have more up his sleeve, Gary? So, like, by meaning that we've talked about it for months about what this Pirates team needs. We talked about it in length, even over the last couple of weeks. I mean, obviously, the answer is yes, but how much does he have up under his sleeve? Does he have a little bit? Does he have the card to get the royal flush under his sleeve? Like, what's going on over here in Ben Cherington's mind?
I mean, he's definitely got to have more stuff going on. I don't see any way they go into this season without bringing in some starting pitching options, and that's going to require people to be jettisoned from the 40 man. So, of course, there's still some There's still some skimming to be done there, I would say. We got Anthony Banda that, probably shouldn't be too difficult of a decision. Eric Handhold they just picked up. Nick Mears. Cody Ponce is somebody that I think they could easily kind of jettison.
Greg Allen.
Yeah, see, that's the thing with Greg Allen, though. They haven't seen him yet. They liked him enough to pick him up, right? Same with Eric Handhold. So when I sit here and say, they can get rid of them right away, well, they picked them up for some reason, right? So they obviously want to see them, right? I can't see them going with that mix we talked about with 8 outfielders and 9 middle infielders. So I think there might be some trade fodder there. Maybe that's how they get their backup catcher, something along those lines. Maybe that's how they get a pitcher. I mean, you could try to eat some salary from somebody else, trying to get rid of a little bit of excess and take on some of that. I mean, there's options there. As far as what he's going to do, like what his grander plan is, well, I think they told us a little something, right? If you're on the non-tender list right now or the tender list for arbitration and you haven't been given your walking papers as of Thursday, you're not going to be given your walking papers, right? I mean, you're going to be tendered. So that means Chad Cole's staying, and that means Stephen Brault's staying, and that means Colin Moran's staying. And you can stop worrying about any of that stuff. And if they stay, this probably isn't going to come across as good news to people, but I see your opening day rotation as Chad Cole, Stephen Brault, Bryce Wilson, JT Brubaker, and Mitch Keller. And I'm not 100% sure that I'm comfortable going in with that, but I think that's what will happen. So I would look for Stephen Brault and Chad Cole to be on the proverbial block immediately here upon being tendered. I don't look for it to actually happen until the trade deadline, but I think that's going to be a narrative pretty much all off season. Kevin Newman's another one that I think we can start thinking about.
To the Yankees.
I don't even know about to the Yankees, but I know the Colorado Rockies are looking to fill the shortstop position, and somebody like Kevin, he might actually do well there. Really, his power might play there a little bit better than we think.
I mean, yeah, but I was making a joke about the Kevin Newman thing because I mean, everybody was saying, "Oh yeah, like the Yankees have him on the radar or something." I was like, "Okay, cool." So every Pirates fan I know was making the joke about the Miguel Andujar and Clint Frazier trade. Well, can't be Clint Frazier anymore because he's not on the team. So he could end up again on the team. But anyways, I mean, yeah, I agree 100% about the Kevin Newman thing. I think especially his defensive output and his bat, if his bat plays up to his defensive output, he's one of the better shortstops in the National League. Personally.
Yeah, the scary thing with all those middle infielders that we talked about, of all of them, I think they've only got 4 that can really play shortstop, real well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it can't be real willy-nilly what they're doing with that position. They've got a lot of things that I think they need to work out there. They got to figure out what they're going to do with Tucupita Marcano. I mean, he was clearly a target by Ben Cherington, but he didn't do anything since the acquisition. He's on the 40-man again. He's going to get a shot in camp. He's no shot to make this 26-man. He'd have to leapfrog 3 or maybe even 5 players before he gets a shot. So I'm not sure what the plan is there on some of these guys. Diego Castillo, they're going to want to give a shot to. There's a lot of players. There's almost so many. You can't reasonably expect them to really give them all a legitimate shot.
Not unless you play. And the only way that you can even do that and give them a shot is if you start platooning them and literally saying, okay, you 2 are going out on Monday, you 2 are going out on Tuesday, you 2 are going out on Wednesday, and then you just revolve door that. But even then, how many looks are you really giving the guys when you're revolving 4 different outfield groups out there for 4 days of the week and they get to see 2 days of action a week when they're supposed to be seeing 5 to 6?
Right. I think we're going to have to start looking at certain players like Hoy Park and Michael Chavis a little bit differently than we have because, they're guys we wanted to give a shot to and everything, but they're going to have a short leash, I would imagine. Anthony Alford, same thing. Players like that, they're not going to get shots ad infinitum. At some point, they're going to have to do something to just start making some rash cuts. You're going to lose some players that way. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, and I mean, it's if you haven't gotten anything from this, by the way, this has been like basically saying the business of baseball is very tough. It really is. And like Ben Cherington doing what he's doing right now, building this farm system up and everything, this is just a part of it. We're getting to that stage now, heading into this next season, where you really have to start looking at some of these guys and start picking who you want. Like you really have, like that's something Ben Cherington's going to have to start doing pretty soon. And that's kind of what you're outlining with the 8 outfielders, 9 infielders. At some point, you're going to have to cut that number down to like 4 and 5. Like 5 outfielders, 4, maybe 5 infielders, 5 outfielders.
Yeah, and ideally you'd have your 4 that are in the majors for outfield, right? And then you'd have 2 maybe in the minors. Right now, we're sitting on 4 and 4. That's a little too much.
A lot.
Yeah, and so I'm just saying that I think they're going to end up whacking either one of Allen or Alford from this roster. I don't see all the cuts coming from below the belt. And we'll see what happens. When we talk about true competition in spring, this is setting up for true competition in spring.
Yep, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be real fun.
I agree, because there won't be any of this just waiting for one guy that you might want to catch a glimpse of. There's a lot to look at here this year. There really is. I wish there was more on the mound. There's a lot here.
Oh, yeah, of course. And, Gary, you already know that during the spring, which is like 3 or 4 months from now, we will definitely be covering that. But go ahead and tell everyone where they can find all of your wonderful work and everything and why you love the Pirates so much. I don't know.
You can find everything I write at Inside the Bucks Basement. I just wrote a new one today on the depressing free agent catching scene for backup catchers. So you might want to go check that out. And my podcast, Pirates Fan Forum, it's on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcasting Network. Available anywhere you can find Ethan's fine show, Locked On Pirates.
Of course. And you guys already know that you can follow me and Gary on Twitter at our little taglines under our names on YouTube. But mine is MVP_Ethan. His is Gary Mo 2007. I finally remembered the number for once. You can follow this podcast on Twitter as well at Locked On Pirates. You can also, I'm pretty sure, follow the Pirates Fan Forum podcast on Twitter as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I'm
Pirates
assuming
Fan Forum.
Yep. There you go. Awesome. And, Gary's here every Monday. He will continue to be here every Monday. We will also continue to be here 5 days a week throughout the month of November. When December comes, I don't know what's happening in terms of days, but Gary will be here every Monday regardless. So thank you guys for tuning in, as you always do. Thank you for making me your first listen, and Gary, on Mondays on the Locked On Pirates podcast. Make sure you go to Locked On Bets to make sure you're up to date on all of your gambling needs. That's hosted by your boy Q and handicap expert and insight expert Lee Sterling. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and I will see you tomorrow on the flip side.